Nina, a young ballerina in the New York City Ballet Company, had always dreamed of becoming the Swan Queen, the most important role in the Swan Lake performance. It was her biggest goal, something every dancer in her family cherished, especially since her mother was also a former ballerina. Nina's mother, though, was so overbearing that she practically breathed down Nina's neck. Imagine a helicopter parent, but with point shoes. She had given up her career after Nina was born, and now seemed to be living through her daughter's achievements. As usual, Nina heads to her ballet company to practice. Because nothing says normal day like being crushed under the weight of your mom's unfulfilled dreams, right? Her artistic director, Thomas, gathers all the dancers and begins to explain the story of the White Swan and the Black Swan, which would be the theme of their next Swan Lake performance. The White Swan, he explains, is an innocent and pure soul trapped in a spell. She needs to break the curse by making the prince fall in love with her. Classic fairy tale stuff. Get a guy to fix all your problems. But before she can do anything, the Black Swan, her evil opposite, seduces the prince, and the White Swan loses all hope, eventually dying to gain her freedom. Yep, because nothing says freedom like death. Nice, uplifting ballet material. Thomas then drops the bombshell. Beth, the current Swan Queen, would be replaced, and auditions for the new lead role would be held soon. Poor Beth. One day you're on top, the next day you're being replaced. It's like ballet's version of getting ghosted. Naturally, Nina, along with all the other dancers, starts practicing like crazy for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When the audition day arrives, Nina is the first to perform. She starts her Black Swan dance, but struggles to nail it. She flopped harder than a pancake on Sunday morning. Things only get worse when another dancer, Lily, walks into the room, distracting Nina and making her performance even worse. Thomas asks her to leave, and Nina, devastated, goes home to tell her mother about her small mistake during the audition. Yeah, small mistake? I tripped over my own feet and face-planted into my dreams. Nina starts crying, but her mother, as always, is there to comfort her. If by comfort we mean adding even more pressure. Determined to improve, Nina throws herself into practicing the Black Swan role. She pushes herself so hard that she injures her feet, but instead of resting, she keeps going. Because nothing says, I'm a dedicated artist, like ignoring all basic advice from medical professionals. The next day, she goes to Thomas's office to tell him she's ready and has been working hard. Thomas, however, informs her that he has already chosen another dancer, Veronica, for the role of Swan Queen. Nina is crushed. At this point, Nina's luck is worse than a cat that walked under every ladder in New York City. Just as Nina is about to leave, Thomas stops her and tells her she needs to get out of her comfort zone. Then, things take a weird turn when he kisses her. Because apparently, being creepy is part of the audition process, Nina feels uncomfortable and leaves quickly. As if the pressure from her mom wasn't enough, now she has to deal with Mr. Sleazeball too. Poor Nina. It seems like life just keeps handing her the worst roles, both on and off the stage. Nina is feeling pretty down, thinking she missed a great opportunity, but then she gets the news that she's been chosen as the Swan Queen this year. Naturally, she's thrilled and rushes to tell her mother. But she can't shake the feeling that Thomas, her director, might be pulling a sneaky move and taking advantage of her. Like, sure, congrats on being Swan Queen, but maybe not so cool when your director's playing mind games. While trying to process it all, Nina heads to the washroom and sees a message scrawled on the mirror. It suggests that everyone else in the company is jealous of her success and thinks she must have done favors for Thomas to get the role. Jealousy in ballet? Shocking. Almost as surprising as ballet dancers wearing tutus. Later, at the company's official party, Thomas introduces Nina as the new Swan Queen and takes a moment to honor Beth, the former Swan Queen. Beth, however, is far from pleased. She's bitter about being replaced and feels like she was forced out of her role. After the party, Beth confronts Nina, accusing her of getting the role by cozying up to Thomas. Beth's got all the charm of a bad Yelp review. Bitter, personal, and probably exaggerated. Nina doesn't say much in response at the time, but later, Thomas pulls her aside for a private conversation. He reassures her, telling her not to worry about anyone else and to focus on proving herself. Of course, this is Thomas, so his idea of freeing herself involves Nina performing a task. Specifically, he asks her to touch herself sexually. Because clearly, in Thomas's Warp Ballet boot camp, mastering pirouettes just isn't enough. When Nina goes home, her mother undresses her and notices the injury on Nina's back. It's obvious that Nina has been pushing herself too hard. Her mother, furious, tells her to stop, but Nina isn't backing down. It's like a tug-of-war with her mom's dreams pulling from one side and Nina's sanity barely hanging on at the other. Nina's mother doesn't like any of this one bit, but Nina isn't about to give up on her dream. The next morning, Nina tries to follow Thomas's bizarre instructions, but she stops when she realizes her mom is asleep in her room. Talk about an awkward moment. Nothing ruins the vibe like realizing your mom has the same creepy obsession with your life as a reality show camera crew. Clearly, Nina's mom has a bit too much control over her life. Later, Nina heads back to practice and finds out that Beth had an accident the previous night. Her leg bones were broken, and Thomas suspects that Beth might have tried to hurt herself. Although with Thomas around, who knows? Maybe she just slipped on all the drama. Thomas tells Nina not to pay attention to any of it. He seems suspicious, but Nina doesn't want to question it too much. She goes to visit Beth, and seeing her condition leaves her shaken. After that, Thomas starts a private practice session with Nina. As they practice, things take an uncomfortable turn as Thomas starts touching and kissing her sexually. At first, Nina resists, but slowly she begins to accept it and even starts enjoying it. Because apparently, in Thomas's world, ballet lessons come with a side of inappropriate advances. She begins to seduce him, or so she thinks. But just when things are heating up, Thomas pulls away and tells her that this was her mistake. He says that in Swan Lake, it's the swan who seduces the prince, not the other way around. Yeah, because that's the real takeaway from this whole messed up situation. Thanks for the life lesson, Thomas. Realizing she failed Thomas's bizarre test, Nina breaks down crying. Because, let's be honest, what else is there to do when your dance career comes with a side of trauma? Lily shows up, but soon Nina leaves, clearly shaken and confused. The next day, Thomas is watching Nina practice, and he gets annoyed with her. He asks her to repeat the same steps over and over again, which starts to frustrate her. Because apparently, Thomas's motto is, if you're not crying by the end of practice, you didn't do it right. Then out of nowhere, Thomas throws shade at Nina, saying, you were crying yesterday, and I don't need a weak swan queen here. Oh, great. A director with the emotional sensitivity of a brick wall. He yells at her, telling her she needs to drop her weakness if she wants to succeed. It feels like everyone is trying to control Nina's life. Her overbearing mother, her manipulative boss, and even her colleagues, who are either backstabbing or judging her. Basically, Nina's life is like one big reality show, and she's stuck with the worst cast imaginable. Nina starts to realize that Lily probably told Thomas about her struggles, which makes her furious. So, she goes to confront Lily, telling her to stay out of her business. That night, Lily comes over to Nina's place to apologize, and Nina, being a bit of a softie, forgives her. Because, hey, who hasn't accidentally snitched on their coworker, right? Lily invites her to go out to a club, and for once in her life, Nina decides to listen to herself instead of her mother. Nina, breaking free from her mom's clutches, was like watching a baby bird finally learn to fly. Except this baby bird was about to party. At the club, Nina lets loose like never before. Lily slips some pills into Nina's drink, and soon Nina is on another level of freedom, dancing wildly. Who knew Nina's secret to being a great dancer was less about technique and more about getting accidentally drugged by her frenemies. After the wild night, Nina and Lily get intimate, and for the first time, Nina locks her bedroom door, something she'd never done because of her overprotective mother. Shocking, right? A locked door. Nina's basically a rebel now. The next morning, Nina wakes up to find Lily gone and realizes she's late for practice. She rushes to the studio only to see Lily already there, performing the Black Swan dance. Talk about adding salt to the wound. Lily didn't just leave Nina passed out. She showed up early to steal her spotlight. What a pal. Nina is furious, thinking that Lily took advantage of the situation and didn't even bother to wake her up. At the next meeting, Nina confronts Lily, saying she'll be watching her tomorrow. She starts to question whether she really got intimate with Lily or if it was all just a weird hallucination. Apparently, in Nina's world, you're never quite sure if you hooked up with someone or just spent the night alone in your own head. Nina continues practicing for her role, and she notices Thomas and Lily exchanging looks. Because, of course, there's nothing more professional than your boss having eyes for the competition. Nina pushes herself harder and finally gives a great performance. Thomas praises her, clearly impressed, and Nina feels a sense of achievement. Let's be real. When you impress a guy who screams at you for having emotions, it's practically a miracle. Feeling confident, Nina goes to get her measurements for the white and black swan costumes. Afterward, she stays behind to practice alone, even after everyone else has left. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Nina starts having strange visions of Thomas and Lily being intimate. At this point, Nina's life is more confusing than a dream sequence in a soap opera. She doesn't know what to believe anymore. In a state of distress, Nina goes to visit Beth. She tells her, I want to become the perfect swan, just like you, but also confesses that she feels like Lily is replacing her. Poor Nina, always aiming for perfection, while everyone around her is busy auditioning for the role of worst person ever. Nina starts venting to Beth, telling her, I know how painful it is to get replaced. You were perfect, and now I'm replacing you. But I'm nothing. I'm not perfect. Yes, Nina, because nothing says I'm not perfect like confessing your insecurities to the person you're literally pushing out of a job. Nina leaves Beth's side, clearly unraveling, and slowly begins transforming into the Black Swan. Of course, this transformation is more symbolic than literal. Nina, who started off calm and fragile, is now becoming aggressive and dark. Basically, She went from "I'm too shy to speak up" to "I'm about to flip tables." At home, Nina becomes more erratic and even lashes out at her mother, attacking her when she gets too close. Her mother faints, and it's clear that the aggression Nina has kept bottled up for years is finally bursting out. Looks like Nina's childhood of being controlled is coming back to bite everyone, especially her poor mom, who just wanted her daughter to be a star ballerina, not Mike Tyson in a tutu. The next morning, Nina wakes up to find her mother caring for her, but her mom tries to stop her from going to the Swan Lake performance, telling her she's in no state to perform. Of course, today is a big day, so Nina isn't having any of it. She argues with her mother and manages to escape, running off to the ballet company. Because, obviously, when your mental state is crumbling, the best idea is to run straight into the most stressful performance of your life. Genius. Once she gets to the company, Nina rushes to do her makeup for the show. Thomas pops in to tell her she only has 10 minutes before the performance starts. Nina seems calm, well, as calm as someone on the verge of a meltdown can be. She begins her White Swan performance, and at first, she's doing great. She was in her element, showing everyone why she's a master of looking fragile while doing really hard stuff. But then, she starts getting distracted, seeing visions of Lily everywhere, and it throws her off balance. She even falls on stage. Despite the stumble, Nina pulls herself together and finishes the White Swan performance. Afterward, backstage, Thomas yells at her, demanding to know what went wrong. Because clearly, shouting at someone who's already stressed out is always a solution. Nina, of course, doesn't take responsibility and blames the dancer who was performing as the prince. Nice move, Nina. Blame the guy who probably just stood there the whole time. Classic. Nina heads to her dressing room to prepare for the Black Swan performance, but she sees Lily there, casually doing her makeup. Lily teases her, saying, "What if I perform the Black Swan?" Yeah, Lily, because threatening someone on the edge of a breakdown is definitely the best way to make friends. They get into a heated argument, and in a sudden burst of rage, Nina throws Lily down and, in a shocking turn, stabs her with a piece of glass, slitting her throat. And just like that, the ballet turns into an episode of CSI, Swan Lake. Panicking, Nina hides Lily's body in the bathroom and goes out to perform as the Black Swan. But now, we see a completely different side of Nina. She's confident, bold, and even a little arrogant. Basically, she's channeling her inner diva and loving every second of it. Her Black Swan performance is mesmerizing. The audience and her fellow dancers are blown away by her intensity and skill. Everyone is clapping and amazed by Nina's transformation into the perfect Black Swan. After the performance, Nina kisses Thomas, because why not, and gets ready for her final act as the White Swan. But just as she's getting ready, Lily shows up backstage, congratulating Nina on her incredible performance. Wait, what? Lily's alive? Nina is confused, shocked, and starting to question her own reality. Imagine thinking you just killed someone, only to have them walk in like, "Hey, great job out there." It's enough to make anyone question their life choices. After Lily leaves, Nina looks at herself and suddenly realizes the shocking truth. She didn't hurt Lily at all. In fact, she had stabbed herself in the stomach with the glass. Yeah, that's right. Our girl Nina went full-on self-sabotage mode and didn't even realize she was fighting with herself the whole time. Classic Nina. She had injured herself, not Lily. The whole thing had been in her head. By stabbing herself, Nina had symbolically destroyed her own innocence, her White Swan. She did this so she could fully become the Black Swan, a perfect version of herself. In other words, she traded her good girl image for the ultimate "I'm a boss now" energy. But maybe stabbing yourself wasn't the best way to make that transition, Nina. Just a thought. Nina didn't want to be the White Swan, the one who dies to find freedom. No, she wanted freedom while staying alive. Which is ironic, because stabbing yourself isn't the best survival strategy. But hey, she was going through some stuff. This realization also makes it clear that earlier, when Nina thought she had been intimate with Lily, she had actually been imagining the whole thing. Basically, Nina was stuck in her own little soap opera, starring herself. In fact, Nina's actions suggest that she was exploring her own identity, including her sexuality, throughout the movie. All the trauma she'd endured since childhood, everyone controlling her, suppressing her true self, had finally taken its toll. Now, she was free. Well, free in the sense of mental clarity, but not so free in the sense of having stabbed herself in the stomach. Details. Remember that kiss with Thomas? That was another sign that Nina had embraced her maturity and womanhood, stepping into a new chapter of her life. Sure, because kissing your creepy boss always marks personal growth, right? But Nina wasn't ready to stop there. Even injured, she goes on stage to perform the White Swan dance one last time. Her mother, who had come to watch, gets emotional seeing Nina's performance. At the end of the performance, Thomas rushes to Nina, telling her that she had just given the best performance of her life, one that will always be remembered. Well, Nina, when your performance ends with a dramatic injury, people tend to remember that sort of thing. But then Thomas notices the blood. He panics and asks for an ambulance, but Nina refuses. She simply tells him that her performance was perfect. Yeah, because nothing says I nailed it like bleeding out after your big moment. With that, Nina whispers, it was perfect. The most perfect, and boom, just like that, the movie ends. Nina went out the same way she lived, dramatically, with a whole lot of questionable decisions. But hey, she finally got to be the Black Swan, so win?